Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Ming.
And welcome to Skip the Rulebook, your ship through a cosmos of rules so you can discover your new game.
Today we'll be following in the footsteps of Matt Damon in Mission to Mars 2049. In this game, you'll be taking control of one of humanity's first colonies among the stars, striving to spread your reach across the Red Planet while providing your fragile human occupants with the resources they need in order to survive.
Unfortunately, opportunity has also beckoned other would-be settlers who want to plant their flag. You'll need to build outposts, defend yourself from attack, and seek out that all-important flowing water if you wish to flourish. If only there was an alien machine that would make the sky blue. Let's skip the rulebook. Not going to need this. The game board for Mission to Mars depicts the northern hemisphere of the planet Mars, with each intersection on the overlaid grid representing suitable locations for new bases. The bases themselves, along with various resource stations and labs you may build, are represented by small cardboard tokens. These come in 4 colours, with one full set going to each player. Each player will also receive a crib sheet of the same colour. This will help you keep track of the cost of each of your structures.
Life on a barren planet is never going to be a picnic. Throughout the game, you'll be attempting to collect a range of resources in order to survive and grow. These are represented by a set of cards. Food, minerals, and air. These cards can be spent, traded, and stolen during the game. The circular resource tokens are used when you want to stash some of your resources by turning them into a more long-term store, which is safe from theft.
The aim of life on Mars is to become sustainable. This requires water. Each player will be attempting to build a H2O station on the North Pole. Getting there requires the construction of a special Arctic road. The effort required to build this road during the game costs resources and is represented by these road cards. The final deck of cards are the missions. These come in 2 types. The peaceful missions are a way to aid your own colony and have a white graphic on the back. The aggressive missions are a way of hampering your opponents and have a black graphic on the back.
The last tool of our would-be colonists is the game die. This is the means by which you'll generate resources and potential mishaps during the game.
Begin by unfolding the game board and placing it in the centre of the play area. Then place the piles of resource cards and road cards to the side of the board. This will be referred to as the bank. Next, each pile of mission cards should be shuffled separately, and then placed alongside the bank. Then place the circular resource tokens alongside their corresponding resources.
Each player should choose which colour they wish to play and then take the tokens and the matching crib sheet of that colour. Each player will receive 5 bases, 5 of each resource station, 2 laboratories, 1 Arctic road token and 1 H2O station. Each player will also start with 2 of each resource card in their hand.
Each player also begins the game with 1 base already constructed on the planet. The bases are the tokens that carry the star graphic on the back of them. The position of these starting bases is dictated by the number of players. In a 2-player game you would place them here, in a 3-player game they would be placed here, and in a 4-player game they would be placed here.
We each also start the game with 1 of each resource station. These must be placed adjacent to our starting base, like so. The order these are placed in doesn't matter. With the setup done, let's start play. The aim of Mission to Mars 2049 is to construct new bases by spending resources in order to move your colonists closer towards the North Pole of the planet. Once there, you'll need to construct a H2O station to provide an almost unlimited water supply for your colony, and also incidentally win the game. To begin with, we'll need to decide a starting player. To do this, both players roll the die, and the first to roll the air symbol will be our starting player. I rolled the air symbol, so I will get to go first. Each turn begins by rolling the game die. The symbol you roll dictates the first action you must take. This turn, I have rolled the air symbol. Whenever you roll a symbol which matches one of the game's 3 resources, all players receive that resource from the bank. The number of cards that you receive is dictated by the number of resource stations of that type that you currently own. As this is the start of the game, I only have 1 air resource station, so I get 1 card from the bank, as does Paul. The next thing I have the option to do is to build a new structure. Since gaining resources is going to be key to expansion, I'm going to start by building a new air station. I consult the cost on my crib sheet, pay that cost to the bank, and place my new structure. New structures must be placed adjacent to an existing base. This can include diagonally. This means I cannot place my new station here or here, but instead can only place it either here or here. You can build as many structures during your turn as you can afford. Once you're done, play passes to the next player sat clockwise.
Again, I start by rolling the die. The food symbol means that since we each have only 1 food station, we each gain 1 food card from the bank. While you can build as many structures as you like during your turn, it is a suggested tactic early in the game that you avoid building any, and save up your resources until you can afford your first base. Therefore, I'm going to do nothing and pass this turn.
I rolled a mineral symbol. Since Paul and I both only have 1 mineral station, we both get to draw 1 of that resource type from the bank. As well as building structures during your own turn, you have the option of buying mission cards. Before you do this, you'll have to decide whether you are going to be peaceful or aggressive. The peaceful mission cards will give you a bonus or a boost to your own colony, such as extra resources or free construction. The aggressive mission cards will do some damage to your opponent, such as destroying a structure. Once you've decided whether or not you're going to be benevolent, consult your crib sheet and pay the required cost to the bank. Then take a card of your chosen type. See, Ming isn't always merciless. During your turn, you can only purchase 1 mission card, regardless of how many you can afford. You can also only play 1 mission card. These cards can be played in the turn you purchase them or later on, unless the card states otherwise. The cards are fairly self-explanatory. Simply follow the instructions on them and then place them face up in a discard pile. So when I play this resource mission card, I get to take 2 resources of every type from the bank. It is possible that when you play a card that you've purchased in a previous round, you may then purchase another card during this turn which indicates you must play it immediately. While this may mean you end up playing more than 1 card during your turn, you must follow this instruction and play the card.
There are a number of different symbols on the die other than the resource symbols. This turn I've rolled the robbery symbol. This means I get to take 1 random resource card from a chosen opponent. Thank you. The first thing I'm going to do this turn is trading. As well as building or buying and using mission cards, you may also trade resources with the bank. This is done at 4 to 1. While this may seem a little steep, it's a good way of getting rid of resources you have too many of and swapping them for something more useful. I'm going to swap my 4 air cards for 1 food. I did say last turn that I was saving up for a base, but instead I'm going to build a laboratory. I check the cost and then pay that cost to the bank. I then take the token that has a number 3 on it and place it onto the board, ensuring that it is adjacent to an existing base. The laboratory means that if in future turns I decide to trade with the bank, I will now be trading at a rate of 3 to 1, which is a much more reasonable rate. Each player only has 2 laboratories, one with the 3 on it and one with the 2 on it. If in a future turn you were to build a second laboratory, you would place the token with the number 2 on it. This would gain you a trading rate of 2 to 1, which can be really powerful in the later game.
The discovery symbol means I can choose one resource card of any type from the bank. While the resource symbols on the die apply to all players in the game, the discovery symbol only applies to the person who rolled it, so in this case Paul gets nothing. Karma for his theft, methinks. Any resource cards you have in your hand are fair game if another player rolls the robbery symbol at any point. However, there is something you can do to protect yourself. During your turn, you can swap resource cards for resource tokens instead. I'm going to swap my 3 mineral cards for a mineral token of the same number. This can be done freely at any point during your turn. If in future turns Paul was to roll a robbery symbol, he can now not steal my minerals. He can only steal from the remaining cards in my hand. At this stage in the game, it may be tempting to build another resource station, such as a mineral station. Again, consult your crib sheet for the cost, pay this to the bank, and place it adjacent to your current base. The problem now is that if in a future turn I wanted to build another base, there are no places left to build, as there are no empty intersections next to my current base. If you find yourself in this position, don't worry. It may be a costly mistake, but it's not game over yet. You can build a base on top of an existing station. You just have to remove that station first. Sadly, you would not get back any of the resources you spent on constructing it.
The last symbol on the die is the one I've just rolled, and it's the skip a turn symbol, and indicates that things in my colony have ground to a standstill. I will not receive any resources or get to take any actions this turn, and must pass the die immediately to the next player. If I was to roll this same symbol on my next turn, I would gain 1 resource of my choice from the bank. I would sadly still not get any actions.
The only important action we have not yet mentioned is building a new base. This is done in the same way as building any other resource station, but there is one additional stipulation. When building a new base, as well as having to be placed adjacent to an existing base, it must be placed closer to the North Pole. This means it cannot be built equidistant or further away than an existing one.
The game continues with each player taking their turn, generating resources and building structures until they have a base adjacent to the North Pole. As the aim is to reach the North Pole, we now look at how we achieve this feat. Before you can build your H2O station on the North Pole, you must have first constructed your polar road. This road can be built during your turn by exchanging 3 of the road resource cards. These cards are special and are not gained easily. There are only 2 means by which you can gain a road card. Firstly, when you roll the discovery symbol on the dice, you may choose one road card as your one resource card that turn. Alternatively, you can trade for them using your current trading rate and exchange resources with the bank. Once you have the 3 required road cards, during your turn, you pay them to the bank and then place your polar road leading from your centremost base.
After you build your polar road, there is a short step to victory. The first player to build their H2O station at the North Pole wins the game. However, there is a steep cost of 8 of each resource to do so. Once you've done a turn or 2 of Mission to Mars 2049, you'll pretty much have it down. The only issues arise in certain circumstances, and these do warrant a mention. During your turn, you can have as many resource cards in your hand as you like, but you can only ever have 3 road cards. These must remain on the table in front of you face up, and these cannot be stolen by other players through the robbery action. If, through some mistake, you ever end up with 4, you must return 1 to the bank and get no refund.
The next special mention goes to the Armageddon card. Some cards indicate on them that they must be played immediately and cannot be saved or avoided. The Armageddon card causes the destruction of the base closest to the North Pole, even if that base belongs to the player who purchased the card. In the event of a tie, the card destroys the bases of each of the tied players. When the base is destroyed, any resource station connected to that base should be turned upside down. These are considered temporarily inactive. If the base has the polar road connected to it, that is also considered to be inactive. The player must rebuild the base before they can reactivate the resource stations or build the H2O station. It should be mentioned that starting bases are immune to the Armageddon card. This card makes the aggressive missions a bit of a Russian roulette, particularly if you happen to be in the lead. You have been warned.
The last rule worth mentioning is that when collecting resources during an opponent's turn, you can change your resource cards for tokens, but only if they are of the same type of resource that was generated that turn. You can't change other resource cards for tokens until your own turn.
That's it from us at Skip the Rulebook. If you found this video useful, please hit like. If you want to hear more from Skip the Rulebook, press subscribe. You can also find out more about us on Facebook, Twitter and skiptherulebook.com.
Keep your eyes out for our Just Play video to watch us play Mission to Mars 2049 with our friends.
Join us next time for your chance to jump into that new board game without having to do any tedious rule reading. See you later. You can discover your new... not planet.
No, that's not the line.
Ma'am.
Attempting. Each player will receive 5 bases, 5 of each resource stick. Each player will receive 5 bases, 5 of each resource stick. Each player will receive... Each player will receive 5 bases, 5 of each resource... Each player will receive 5... Each player will receive 5 bases, 5 of each resource station. Each player will receive 5...
Yeah, they will. To skip a turn stim.
Polar road.
Roll.